Welcome to the K-State Pregame Show, brought to you by GoPowerCat.com and sponsored by Coldest.com and The Wooden Cork. Now let's head to the Cats and Dogs studio and your host, Tim Fitzgerald.
Welcome to the K-State Pregame Show. I am GoPowerCat publisher Tim Fitzgerald. And over the next hour or so, we will try to get you prepared for a Big 12 football game between the UCF Knights and the Kansas State Wildcats. Between the last game and this game, it will have been 15 days since K-State has taken the field for a game. Their last time out being a Friday night loss at Arizona that dropped the Cats to 1-3. It's the worst start for this program since 1989, Bill Snyder's first team at Kansas State. Hitting the reset button has been the theme of the off period for Kansas State coach Chris Klieman. Did they accomplish that? Well, Klieman and players say it was a great first week, but they had to carry it over into this current week. And we will find out if they did. Let's be really honest here. Kansas State hasn't looked too interested in competing. And if they don't change that, they're going to have a dreadful season. But in all honesty, if you've got to hit the reset button, playing a home game against UCF isn't a bad way to do it. However, the Knights under Scott Frost in his first year back in Orlando seem to be a much improved football team. They're 3-0 heading in to this game after a 34-9 drubbing of the North Carolina Tar Heels. But now they're on the road, and they're coming into what is typically an intimidating road environment. Are the K-State fans going to be locked in? Well, I have no doubt about that. The questions actually surround the team. Will they be properly motivated, focused, and up to the task to win another game? They have won just one game, a comeback in the fourth quarter against North Dakota, losing also at home to Army. Of course, they started the season with a loss in Ireland to Iowa State before wrapping up that portion of the schedule with the defeat at Arizona. They are 0-1 in the conference, and they have 8 games spread out over the next 10 weeks against Big 12 foes. Playing for the Big 12 title is still technically, mathematically on the table for Kansas State, but they are so far away from thoughts of that right now that it seems silly to even bring up. Fans, coaches, everyone following this team, including players, need to see vast improvement in this game at home on a Saturday morning. Can they muster that? Can they get that done? Well, we don't know, but we're going to talk about what it'll take for this team to turn around this ship before it fully hits the iceberg, because they are getting there very quickly. And as we always do, we will have Brian Hanley in here shortly. He's standing by to talk about the Wildcats, where they're at, what they need to do. And we're going to focus on the changes that need to be taking place for these Cats to be successful in this game. Then after that, we'll have Cole Carmody, our recruiting editor, who also does the opposing team scouts. And Cole will break down the Knights and their impressive start so far. Have they really been tested? No. But they're going to be a test for Kansas State. Everything so far this season has been a test for the Wildcats. We'll take a look at the Big 12 schedule, and then I'll give you my final thoughts after a little bit of an interview segment from Chris Klieman and his players. And we might as well just jump right in and bring in our football analyst, host of the Big 12 Insiders, Brian Hanley. And there he is, Brian Hanley himself in the flesh from his studio in Frisco, Texas. We were just discussing Big B. We've had conversations like this over the past, 10 days, 11 days. We've covered a lot of ground. So let's try to find some things directly rooted in what's going to take place Saturday. What's the first indication for you as a former player and as someone who understands this game inside and out? What's the first thing you're looking for from a team that has been reeling and not playing well to indicate that, okay, that's a positive sign?
Just some enthusiasm. Yeah. Just some enthusiasm. How they come out of the locker room, how when they make a play, how do they celebrate with each other? It doesn't have to be the look at me, but even if it is, how do other people react to that? Just that's the first thing. I'm just looking for some signs of life, which we haven't seen this season. Let's just start there. And that'll give me a little bit, and not just me, that'll give us an indication that the guys care, that they're embarrassed on what has happened up to this point, and they want to get it turned around. So that's the first sign for me. Let's just show a little enthusiasm out there and act like this means something to us, and we're ready to go play some football.
They haven't had that. I can't explain that. It has looked like since middle of last season, they're showing up for work and they hate their job.
Mm-hmm.
How is that possible? You only get so many chances to play a football game. You should be so freaking fired up. You should be over the top. That should be your fault. Your shortcoming is you're too over the top, not passive.
Right.
I've had real problems grasping it. And is this situation self-inflicted by the players, or are the coaches not feeding them enough? Maybe in that pregame speech, do those even work? I guess is a good question for someone who's played the game.
I mean, pregame speeches can work. They don't always work, but it also depends on the messenger and how it gets delivered.
Got to be sincere.
Yes, absolutely. You know, I mean, Coach Snyder gave some of the best pregame speeches that I've ever heard. And I'm not just saying that because I played for him, but do you think Coach Snyder was out there yelling and screaming? That's not what he did. So it's about the messenger and how the message gets delivered. And other coaches out there, they are going to yell and scream and get fired up. And if they do that on a normal basis, yes, that can absolutely work. But I don't know if it's necessarily the coaches. I mean, I think it's probably a little bit of both, coaches and players. So at some point, you know, when things go bad, fans like us, we always try to pinpoint what it is. It's the coaches. Well, it's the players. And we don't take a real honest look and say it has to be both. And it does. You can't just blame players for playing bad. Even if they are playing bad and their technique is horrible at whatever position we're talking about, well, are they being taught any better? Are they being corrected? Well, that's where the coaches come into play. So it's always a give and take. It's never one problem, you know, and that's probably true in life, Fitz. It's never just one thing that is the problem. It's always a multitude of things that lead up to that. And I think that's kind of what this is. I think it's everybody involved, the entire football program. That's who is to blame right now. We don't need to pinpoint, and it's the entire football program has to get themselves ready to play, has to be better, has to be fired up, has to be excited about getting an opportunity to play football. That's the thing that you don't want to be the fake rah-rah guy, but you do need some rah-rah guys. You do need those. And to be honest, some of those rah-rah guys have to be guys that see the field. Right. It can't just be, you know, the walk-ons out there that are just excited to have the uniform on. You need those guys and they help, but you need some of these guys, these enthusiastic guys that play on a regular basis.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, if you're a guy down the depth chart, you know you're not going to play. You can stand on the sidelines and watch the game like a fan, or you can make a little noise.
Correct.
You can contribute in what little way you can with positivity, and just hearing words can sometimes just motivate those who actually need to be motivated. What's the one thing? Let's pretend here, because it is midseason, you can't drastically change what you're doing. You can't flip that switch and say, forget all that stuff. We're now going to go to a 1-9-1 defense. You know, so you just can't go off the end of the pier with this. But if you could change something about, let's start with the defense, what would it be?
I mean, it depends on when you're talking about starting. I've said it from the very beginning, and I'll continue to say when K-State changed, I don't think making the change to the 4-man line and doing that was the problem. The problem is how you constructed the roster based on that.
Agreed.
So if we're going to go all the way back to the spring, then you have to construct your roster in a way that's going to be conducive, not just moving a defensive end inside and say, hey, he's super athletic, we're going to move him inside. Well, that's not going to help. That's when NFL teams change their defense from a 3-4 to a 4-3 or vice versa, they don't just kick a guy inside or outside and say, hey, okay, we'll do that. No, they don't do that. What they do is they construct their roster to benefit what they are trying to do. And K-State could have done that. Now, if we're just starting from the season, what I would say is you don't have Dylan Edwards on punt return duties. That would be my first thing. I know that's an easy thing because he got hurt, but you don't need your starting running back returning punts. I know he's super dynamic. I understand you want to get the ball in his hands as many times as possible, and this is not just because he got hurt. Just look around. How many starting running backs are returning kicks? Like where do you see it? Like how many starting running backs do that in the NFL? Let's go to the highest level of football. How many do you see returning punts? You don't see any. Just look at college. College, highest levels of college. What starting running back is returning punts? It's not how that works. It's just not how it works. They're going to get hit enough playing running back. You don't want to open themselves up to more possible injuries, which is literally what happened. That'd be the thing that I changed because we haven't got to see him at all, Fitz. And you can just scratch off the Arizona game. I don't even know if he was 50%. He looked like he was 35% out there, which is a misfortune for him because I know he wanted to play, but he couldn't play. He can't play. He's hurt, and it sucks.
I understand he's maybe your best return specialist. I get that. He's a special athlete. But can't you isn't there anything in between him and, no offense to Sterling Lockett, but nobody is scared of him, at least yet.
Right.
Give me a DJ Reed. Give me a defensive player that can run, has good hands, and then doesn't have to worry about going right back on the field unless he screws up and it's the defense has to go out. Well, I don't understand that. It's like they didn't look very deep into their roster to find the guys.
Well, my whole thing is that, and I understand what you're asking, is there somebody in between, Dylan Edwards and Sterling Lockett? Well, your opportunity is literally right now. It's like, you had Dylan Edwards back there and he's hurt. Your solution was Sterling Lockett.
Right.
Okay. Well, is there nobody else? Because Sterling Lockett, again, I don't even know if he's really even tried to return a punt as of yet. I think everything's basically been fair catches, which that's fine. Just catch the football.
Right.
Just catch the ball. That's the first thing. Just catch the ball when you're supposed to catch it. But having said all of that, I don't know. There has to be. I mean, if K-State is so limited in offensive weapon guys and offensive playmakers, well, again, that's another conversation to have because our starting running back or maybe a guy that you don't fully trust to put on the field on offensive snaps, which is what Sterling Lockett is, we have nobody else. That's a problem in itself, Fitz.
And let's be honest. Maybe Sterling's good at it.
Correct.
But the other 10 guys just aren't giving him an opportunity.
I think
there's
that's
people
more
on top of him. There's just people on top of him as soon as the ball arrives.
Yep. I think that's more what it is that the unit itself just isn't good. I think Sterling's just fine. It would be fine, but he's smart enough to know, I got a fair catch because I'm looking at the ball. You kind of give that little glance. You're like, this is hanging up here too long. We're not blocking it. I got to make a fair catch. Otherwise, I'm going to get myself killed.
I guess the obvious immediate fix on special teams is just quit screwing up. Even Sterling, who's known to be pretty reliable, made a huge mistake at Arizona. He went to try to catch a ball that he should have just let bounce and get out of the way. But again, we're in a position now where we're seeing players make mistakes, not because they're sloppy or careless, but because they're trying too hard to make something happen. And I get it. That's a natural response. Offensively, yes, getting Dylan Edwards healthy, which he might be nearing that. I don't know. That's really important. But what are some of the immediate things you can do with this offense, despite the fact that the offensive line is probably the most inefficient one we've seen at K-State since Bill Snyder arrived? And I'll even put it up against the 1989 team that threw the ball around pretty good. So what can you do on offense to make this a little more troublesome for opposing defenses?
I think you got to simplify things. I think you got to find out, number one, who wants to to be who wants to go win a football game. And I'm not saying that guys out there now don't want to win. What I'm saying is that who's going to lay it all on the line to go win a football game based on what we're trying to do or what we need you to do. And just find out who's capable. I said it before. I think the bye week, every offensive line position, I basically said every position on the team, but if we wanted to just keep it to offense for this quick talking point, every position should have been open. Mm-hmm. Somebody's got to go win a job. Every position is open. I don't care who it is. If you win the job, this is who's going to play. But one of the things that K-State's got to stop doing, and I for the life of me, Fitz, I don't know why they do this. They constantly rotate offensive linemen. That is not how it's done. The teams don't do that. And I always go back to the highest level of football. Just go there. At the highest level, if they don't change linemen, then why are we? And I know there's a couple, maybe some other teams that do it, but they're not right either. You get the best 5 and you keep the best 5 out there. Now, if those guys aren't in shape and they get tired, that's a different conversation.
Right.
But you don't keep rotating offensive linemen. Find the best guys at that position and you play them the entire football game. Case in point. How many offensive linemen you think Army shuffled around when they ran 80-something plays? 0. They didn't move in, and it was the same guys. That's how you play offensive line. So that would be the first thing. But, yeah, just find guys that are going to lay it all on the line and get your best people out there. And, hey, maybe the left tackle is one guy, but you have another left tackle that's better than the right guard. Well, you know what? You got to play right guard. We got to get the 5 best guys out here, regardless of what your position is.
Yeah. I understand they want to build depth. I understand there's going to be injuries. I get all of that. But taking out your best lineman, a series in the middle of the game that might be a significant series, makes no sense to me.
Nope.
None. This isn't running back or receiver. You need those 5 dudes to be in sync with each other. They need to be one organism, and constantly switching out the parts. I get what they're trying to do, stay fresh, but yeah, you're going to have fresh guys that don't work together. I'm baffled by the amount of substitutions they make, just for the sake of substitutions. I know you're the best pass rusher and it's 3rd and 12, but it's this guy's turn.
Yeah.
No. And I think they're doing that too often. Let's just substitute to substitute.
Yeah.
And I almost feel like at some point teams are dictating your personnel when they do a late substitution, and then you're like, okay, we'll take out 3 guys. And they're like, good. We didn't want those guys out here. It's 3rd and 12. Yeah, take them out. We'll look at someone different. I get frustrated with it. And when you say jobs open, that should be quarterback too.
Oh yeah, every job.
I think Avery isn't necessarily showing he's a competitor this year, but he is. Make him compete more. Say everywhere, you know what? This ain't working. Maybe it's us. Maybe it's you. Maybe it's the entire team. But we're going to search for answers. So these guys are going to take an equal number of snaps this week. Now that runs against trying to get him back in sync, but I think just a little fire under his ass might help.
It might. I mean, you don't know. When have we seen it? Like we haven't seen him have to compete for a job. I mean, his freshman year, he wasn't winning that job, and everybody knew it. It wasn't his job to win. Sophomore year, quarterback, they basically chose him over Will Howard, or whatever the reason. Will Howard was no longer here, so it was his job. Now, I'm not even saying that that's not what should have happened. What I'm just saying is he hasn't had to compete for a job. And again, I'm not sure that there would really even be a true competition if they did that Avery wouldn't just blow away the competition, but at least put it out there. If that's what, I mean, what do you have to lose at this point? I mean, you're 1-3, you've struggled every game except for a half. What's the point? Now I just think Avery's just got to take a step back. Look, I know we're kind of off focus here, but I think Avery's just got to take a step back, take a deep breath, and just tell people, and this is hard when you're a young person, to tell everybody that's around him, shut up, let me play football.
Right.
And let the chips fall where they may. And just tell it. And again, I don't envy being in that position because it's tough. It's not the same when I played football. It's not the same than it was 10, 15, 20 years ago. Things are a lot different now. But if he can do it, and again, I'm not saying that he can or can't. I just know how difficult it is to tell everybody, family, coaches, friends, everybody involved, shut up and just let me play football. Either I'm good enough or I'm not. But you constantly telling me what I have to do and what I'm not doing, or the coaches aren't doing for me and all this stuff. Just shut up and let me play. And if I'm good enough, which I think he is, great. But if he isn't, okay, there's worse things in the world. But I think that's what's the problem with him right now, Fitz, is there's too many people telling him what to do. He's probably one of the nicest. I've never met him.
He is.
But I bet he's one of the nicest kids out there. And his problem is he can't tell people no.
Right.
You know, he can say no to the certain, the big stuff, like somebody illegally trying to give him some money. Not that getting money is illegal now, but, he can say no to that kind of stuff. But when it comes to family and friends and coaches, he just can't say no. And that's a problem. That's a problem.
I agree. It's a big problem. And you can almost see him in conflict with who he should be, what the coaches want him to be, probably what his family is expecting him to do, what his instincts are telling him, and what the play is telling him. You can almost see this battle on any play where things don't go as planned, when he has to get off that first receiver, if he ever does, or if he has to roll out and scramble. I don't know who, if it's him, the coaches, family, or a scout has told him you shouldn't run the ball very often, or whatever the reason is why he's not. That you've taken an incredible dual threat quarterback and just scratched out the threat.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the only reason I would say try someone else, because he's in his own head so deep right now. He can't be the quarterback that he actually is. He's an invention. He's a Frankenstein of tools that don't add up to a very good quarterback. And it's remarkable that he's in this position.
It is. First, let me clarify. Everybody that's telling him the things, what to do, they want what's best for him.
Yeah.
So it's not like those people are wrong and they want him to play well. So they're just telling him what they think is best for him. It's not they're giving him it. Now, it may be bad advice, but they're not doing it maliciously. There's the difference. Nobody's doing that. So I wanted to make sure I was clear on that nobody's doing anything malicious. Having said all of that, you're right. Now, I don't know about trying somebody else, because I still think Avery is the best quarterback that we have.
Oh, I agree.
But even at what he's doing right now, I still think he's the best quarterback at what we have. The problem is that there's so much more, and whatever it is, he's just got to get out of his own head. Yeah. And I think that's what it is. And with everything going on, he's just got to say, okay, I got to just let this rip. I just got to go run. If I get hurt, I get hurt. But here's the thing. We've played football. Football players don't go into a game thinking, you know what, I can't get hurt. Because usually what happens is if you do that, you do get hurt. And if you're playing like that, you're not letting it go. You're not letting it rip. And so the best ability that you could possibly have, you hold back. And I'm not saying his running ability is what it is, but that's part of it. I'm just saying you've got to use everything that you have in your arsenal in a college football game to win. And when you don't do that and you're second guessing yourself on what you should do, that's where problems lie. And I think that's what he's doing, because I think Avery's very bright. I think he's ultra athletic, and I think he knows what to do, but he's second guessing himself because of what people are saying, and he's not as effective. He's just, at some point, he's got to just say, you know what, screw it.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just play this one game and me do it my way and see what happens. And if he does that and he's successful, that would change everything, Fitz. I promise you. It's being a guy, not in a quarterback position, but just being a guy that's played the game. When you say, you know what, people are saying this, I'm tired of all this. Let me just go do it my way and see what happens. Do the right things, but just do it in your way. If he does that, I think we're going to see a different Avery Johnson. I really, really do. I
would agree. Quit fighting your instincts.
Yes.
That you can almost see that conflict in real time.
Mm-hmm.
That I should probably run here, but there's going to be someone come open. You know, you can almost see that. Just kid, play football.
Go play football.
Whether it's when you were 12 years old or 17 years old, maybe you're not hyper athletic compared to everyone else on the field, but you're still one of the best athletes. Just go play, man. Go play. Go win yourself a football game.
Yes.
Brian Hanley, you can see him on the Big 12 Insiders channel, which is catching on pretty good. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Got a little rhythm going to it now. It's good to be in football season, isn't it?
It is.
It's just so much more to talk about and tangible stuff.
Yes.
Although I don't know if we really talked about much tangible here. We talked about instincts. That's Brian Hanley. And on the other side, we'll bring in Cole Carmody to talk about the UCF Knights. Are they exceeding expectations under Scott Frost? I'd say yes. I was impressed, and I watched them last week. We'll be right back.
Looking for the rarest bottles at the best price? Experience the best alcohol delivery service. At Wooden Court, we have your favorite bottles in stock and ready to be delivered to your door.
Visit woodencork.com and use the code LIFEOFFITZ for your special discount.
Welcome back to the show as we continue our preview of Kansas State and UCF Saturday morning, 11 a.m. kick at Bill Snyder Family Stadium. Let's take a look at the Knights with our friend Cole Carmody, our recruiting analyst, and also does the opposing team scout. Cole, I don't know about you, but I think UCF's better than I expected. I didn't expect much, but I watched the North Carolina game, and I understand the Tar Heels are awful, but UCF played with confidence, they played fast, and they played with some authority, all traits that Kansas State has not really shown this season. This could be trouble.
Yeah, UCF has overperformed expectations. In full honesty mode here, Fitz. I watched a lot of the Jacksonville State game in which they narrowly escaped, similar to K-State and North Dakota. And if you go look at a lot of the metrics that have, the rankings, I don't know how much I buy into it, but Jacksonville State is one of the worst FBS teams. And it was an ugly game. It was much more ugly than K-State and North Dakota, if we're being honest. But I don't think that surprised a lot of people because it was Scott Frost's first game back. They have a new quarterback. They were rotating different quarterbacks at the time, but they just didn't look good. And so when they won that game, 17-10, I think a lot of folks were like, okay, this is about to be the UCF team we thought. And then they played North Carolina A&T and won 68-7, which, okay, throw that game completely out the window. That's like a scrimmage. It's versus a spring game you'd get more out of. And so they had a bye week after that. And I don't think very many people really thought much about the Knights until here comes big bad Bill Belichick and the UNC Tar Heels. And, I watched a lot of that game, and I went back in and looked at it again. And you're right. I don't think UCF played very well. I think North Carolina is bad. But UCF is playing with a lot of confidence, and that is always scary because anytime you play a team with a lot of confidence and your team hasn't displayed very much of that same confidence, that's not always a very good recipe.
Well, that shows the value of having a couple games to get your feet under you and maybe believe. I don't know what to expect from UCF, but heck, I don't know what to expect from Kansas State. What's the first thing that jumps out to you about UCF?
Well, I look at their offense, and Taven Jackson has really kind of settled in as quarterback there for the Knights. He didn't start as quarterback, but he has kind of developed into a really, really solid game manager these last few games. He's not Against North Carolina, he really wasn't someone who's going to take the top off of a defense. He's not going to break a lot of long runs, but I watched him, Fitz, and it kind of reminded me of Sam Levitt. And the reason it reminded me of Sam Levitt is because he plays hard, and he's not going to blow you away with any measurables. Sam Levitt will do that at Arizona State. But Taven Jackson is the definition of a game manager in all of the right sense. And so, he's not going to lose the game for UCF. I'd be very surprised if he throws the ball in harm's way, if he, puts the ball on the ground and they're the reason that they lose. Now, I'm not sure that he could single-handedly win this game if he's asked to do that. They are not going to be an offense that pushes the ball down the field unless they obviously feel like they can exploit K-State's defense. I just don't think that's in their DNA. And so, when I look at their offense, if you go back and you look at that North Carolina game, it was 20-3, and it very easily could have been that score at halftime. It 13-3, excuse me, and then they go down and score a touchdown and make it 20-3. It was 3rd and 5, I believe, on their own 10-yard line with 50 seconds left, and North Carolina inexplicably lets up a touchdown drive. That's the kind of team we're talking about with North Carolina. But the game was a lot closer. They threw 2 interceptions, or North Carolina threw 2 interceptions in that game. One of them was in the end zone, and so you look at the final score, 34-9. It also doesn't tell you, Fitz, that with 2 minutes to go, UCF could have just probably kneaded out and ran the clock out inside. They were inside the 10-yard line and ran in a touchdown to make it 34-9 to add a little extra confidence boost.
Okay, other weapons we should be aware of for the Knights.
Yeah, they have multiple guys. I mentioned they were going to probably play 2 quarterbacks. Jakari Brown will come in as kind of to be that short yardage running quarterback. That was the first we'd really seen of him against North Carolina. I would expect that a little bit more. He seems to be more of a downhill runner. But I look at their offense and their offensive line, and we talk about the weapons. Well, you have to have a good offensive line in order for your weapons to work. And right now, that's really not the strong suit of UCF. Miles Montgomery is the main running back. He has 41 carries. The next closest guy has 11, but Miles Montgomery averages 3.6 yards per carry. And as a team, the Knights are averaging 5.9 yards per carry, Fitz. Against Jacksonville State, that number was 2.9, and against UNC, that number was 4. And so a lot of that was inflated against North Carolina A&T. So I would say Miles Montgomery is a weapon, but they have some receivers. Dylan Wade is a tight end, DJ Black, but the number 1 receiver is Dwayne Thomas. I don't really know what to expect out of this UCF offense because I don't think that they're that good of a running team. I think they're going to have to throw the ball in order to beat K-State.
Well, that'll be interesting to see if Kansas State can get some pressure. This has been something that's been kind of hit and miss. They showed it a little bit against Iowa State. Army didn't need to throw the ball. They did it, I think, once with effect. North Dakota, I don't want to talk about that game, and that's the one they won. Yeah. And, you go to the Arizona game, and Noah Fafita gave them all kinds of problems, even running the ball, which is not his bag of tricks. So it's hard to assess any opponent right now because you don't know what the Kansas State defense is going to give. But the same's true for the K-State offense. They really haven't proven much except for they're capable of big plays. Is that something UCF has given up?
Well, not particularly. Again, they have played probably 3 of the worst offenses that any team could possibly play. I will give some credit to North Carolina. I don't think their defense is as bad as their offense. But it doesn't take a genius to watch that team play, to watch Gio Lopez at quarterback for North Carolina and just want to go throw up. K-State fans have had a very rough season. But if you're a North Carolina fan, I don't know how you stomach that because it's just horrible football. I think they will be able to make some big plays. But the thing about UCF, and this has been true even before Scott Frost was there and they were horrible when he got there. And then when Gus Malzahn was there, they have really good team speed. And that's the one thing that stands out about UCF is they have good team speed. I don't think that their interior is particularly good, especially, on the offensive side, but on the defensive side, they have to blitz to get pressure. That's the thing that stood out to me was even against North Carolina, they were not able to rush 4 and get to the quarterback. They only have 7 sacks as a team. And when you look at who they've played, you would think that number would be a little bit higher.
Yeah.
And so that I think that's going to be something to watch. I think Avery Johnson's going to have time to throw the football. It's going to be a matter of, can they establish a running game? And, we don't know about Dylan Edwards. By the time you're listening to this, maybe we will know on the injury report. But I think that if they can establish any kind of running game, they will have some success on offense, because I don't think this UCF defense has really been tested. But once again, who knows with what K-State's going to bring to the table?
Yeah, that's the baffling thing. We cover Kansas State and we don't understand K-State. I don't know how an opposing coach is supposed to figure them out.
Yeah.
And I also don't know if anything that was put on film is going to be of much value. How much do you think K-State's going to switch things up here?
Yeah, that's the question. We're banking, as analysts, we're banking on K-State changing something in the bye week. And if we're banking on that, you can imagine what Scott Frost and his staff are doing. So I think that if they're going to look at any film, it's probably going to be that Arizona game. But also, if Dylan Edwards does play, that changes K-State's offense. And so what is UCF going to do defensively? I don't necessarily know. They've they've created 6 turnovers. They have 4 interceptions and 2 forced fumbles. They needed those in a major way against North Carolina. And that was a major reason why they won the game. I look at the secondary for UCF, and they don't really get beat deep. And so maybe that goes back to your last question. How much of that is on the opposing quarterbacks? Probably a lot of it. But they haven't really gotten beaten deep yet. Most of the completions are in the 7 to 8 yard range. And, we know K-State loves to throw those intermediate routes, but I think if they want to win this game, they need to be able to have some success in the middle of the field.
I agree. That's something the offense has lacked for a large part of this season. And they're good at throwing the 7-yard pass, particularly on 3rd and 8.
Right.
It's been maddening to watch them. They just don't seem to be well-defined on either side of the ball. And to hear Chris Kleiman after the game at Arizona just admit, I don't know what the identity of our team is on either side of the ball after 4 games. I don't know what the identity is either. So maybe they can just crank up the team speed and get after it. But I'm intrigued to see what K-State brings to the table. I know one thing. They better be better in special teams. They had a couple big special teams plays due to Arizona making mistakes, just blatant Arizona mistakes. What can you tell me about UCF special teams? Is there anything of substance there?
I mean, the kicking game's been solid for UCF. If you're looking at anything, that's probably the one. Let's just say the punt return team has got a lot of reps. Yeah. So I mean, if you're looking for anything, if you're UCF, hey, you have experience doing that. It's so hard when you look at this UCF team, because coming into the season, you didn't expect them to be very good. There's a lot of question marks around them, a new staff, and so then they play these 3 tune-up games. On paper, playing North Carolina looked good before the season, but in all reality, I mean, that is a shell of an FBS team right now. So UCF to me fits, and I'll say this. I look at UCF and they're playing with a ton of confidence. And if you are looking at this from a 50,000 foot view, you see a K-State team who's 1-3, who's underperforming. If we didn't cover K-State, we would look at this and say, that's a team that off of a bye week is going to come in at home, play angry. And you look at the UCF team and you look at a team that's playing a little bit above its skis. Now, since we do cover this K-State team, I think we have more questions than maybe somebody who doesn't. But for folks who are confused about the betting line at 6.5, as we look at it now, that's, I think, the reasoning is because folks are banking on K-State coming out and playing mad. And you know what, Fitz? If they do come out and have any kind of solid execution, they are the better team. Even the team that beat North Dakota by 3, that lost to Iowa State by 3, that team, I believe, can beat this UCF team. But if that team doesn't show up and the team that played in the first half against Arizona shows up, then it will be a long night because UCF is playing with a lot of confidence.
Yeah, they are. I'm going to put you on the spot here. When you look at Kansas State and your expectations for this game, do you expect more of the same, some improvement, dramatic improvement? Where do you fall on that scale?
I think we'll see more improvement. I'm not going to say a ton of improvement because I think everything is incremental. And, I think the bye week really will help them. And I know folks have talked about Chris Kleiman's performances off of a bye, but they have not played an 11 a.m. game yet. And we know how much K-State likes playing those 11 a.m. games. If they don't come out and play hard, then they might not win another game the rest of the year. And so as a player, I feel like it's very impossible to not feel that pressure. And I do think K-State will have a little bit better execution. And again, if this is the same team that played against Iowa State, then they will win this game. This is not going to be a game that, K-State has to play perfect to win. Some of those games are going to be coming up, but this is not one of those games. They just have to play better. If they can play better, they'll win this game. They might not cover the spread. This might be another one-score game, but they are talented enough to win this football game.
Well, I'll be intrigued to see what happens here. It's K-State and UCF, University of Central Florida. Please don't call them that. They get upset for some strange reason. But I'm excited for this game. And Scott Frost gets to return to Manhattan. Of course, he was on Ron Prince's staff. And I know my friend Marcus Watts played for him because he helped out with the defensive backs and knew at that point he was the real deal. Great success at UCF, went home to Nebraska, stunk up the world, and now he's back where probably he belonged. And we'll see. This is a huge game for both programs. Cole, let's be honest. K-State loses this game, I think they're toast. This is as early in the season as I remember a must-win for a Kansas State team in a long, long time.
Yep, must win, and we'll find out what they're made of. I'm excited too. It's going to be a fun atmosphere, and that's it, man. You got your back against the wall. What are you going to do? And we're going to find out a lot about this group come Saturday morning.
He's Cole Carmody. He covers recruiting for us, kicks a little butt on that, helps out with analysis of the opponents and of K-State, and he and Brian Hanley will be on the post-game podcast. I haven't even told Cole about that yet, but he'll be there, and I know he'll do a great job with Big B. And after the break, we're going to take a look around the Big 12, talk to Coach Chris Kleiman and a couple of players, and then I'm going to give you my one thing to watch as we charge forward, as the Knights might say, into another break on the K-State pregame show. We'll be right back.
From the house to the car to your tailgate, Coldest.com offers elite insulated tumblers. Imagine yourself standing in the football stadium's parking lot, and you want to keep your drink cold or hot. Coldest gets the job done. They're leak-proof, come in numerous designs and sizes, holding up to 46 ounces. And here's the best part. With your Coldest mug, no one needs to know what you're really drinking. Coldest.com. Use the code LIFEOFFITZ for a 10% discount.
Welcome back to the show. And now let's take a look at the schedule in the Big 12 for Week 5 of the 2025 season. 15 conference teams are in action this weekend, with 7 Big 12 games. It starts with a pair of games on Friday night, as TCU heads to Arizona State to play an 8 p.m. game that will be shown on Fox. Houston, at 3-0, plays the lone non-conference game of the week with a 9:30 p.m. kickoff at Oregon State. The game will be shown on ESPN. A pair of morning games in the state of Kansas starts the Saturday morning action, with Cincinnati traveling to Kansas for an 11 a.m. game on TNT. And of course, UCF plays K-State at the same time on FS1. Here are the 4 remaining games. Baylor at Oklahoma State at 2:30 p.m. on ESPN2. Utah at West Virginia in a 2:30 game on Fox. Arizona at Iowa State for a 6 p.m. game on ESPN, followed by an after-dark game featuring BYU at Colorado, kicking off at 9:15 p.m., also on ESPN. That's it for your Week 5 preview of Big 12 action. Now let's return to the Cats and Dogs studio and your host, Tim Fitzgerald.
Welcome back to the show, and we are about done, but we need to hear from Coach Chris Kleiman and a couple players. There was definitely a theme to the week. It's been energy. That was all about last week's practices. Of course, we haven't talked to anyone since the start of practice this week and the recording of this show. We'll find out. But here's Coach Chris Kleiman and a couple of the dudes that need to get it done on Saturday. And after that, I will wrap up the show with your one thing to watch. And you get to watch that awfully early in the contest. Here we go. Here's our interview segment.
Last week we did some really good things, we thought, at practice. It's still got to carry over to a game and game week, but we had a good week of practice. Went hard Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday with pads on, trying to maybe do some things, simplify some things, get a little bit more physical at the point of attack. I thought it was a good week. There was good energy out there, but in the same respect, we've got to carry it over to this week and play really good football on Saturday. We were excited about the opportunity. It's a really good football team. Scott's done a really good job there, which I knew he would. I've known Scott for a long time. He and I were on the same staff at Northern Iowa for 3 years, so I've known Frosty for a long time. I know he's a really good coach, but they've got really talented guys, and they're playing at a really high level, and they're playing with a lot of confidence.
What was the noticeable difference with your team last week from prior week?
I think the energy. I think the physicality. Everybody. It's easy to feel sorry for yourself, but nobody's going to feel sorry for us. So those guys got to dust themselves off and get off the deck and play better football. And some of it, and we talked about it the week before, some of it's us as coaches trying to simplify some things.
Are there traits that they're showing right now that will immediately translate to games? Because they're almost like they're thinking about everything they do.
Yeah. Part of that is accurate. Some of it is just getting punched in the mouth and fighting back, rather than, okay, I'm just getting punched in the mouth. I think that's collectively. I think that's our team. Some of it is our coaches getting punched in the mouth as far as, boy, that didn't work. Okay, now we've got to find something else, and we got to get these kids believing in what we're doing is the right thing and getting them playing with their hair on fire. And that hasn't happened yet on either side consistently. It's happened a series. It's happened for a quarter or so, but it's got to happen for 4 quarters.
Big thing for us for the bye week was our energy and our more of like focus to start out practice. I feel like we've come out a little bit flat, and we're kind of leading that throughout the game. So our big focus was energy as a team, as a whole, offense, defense, special teams.
Man, I feel like we gotta, especially this week, we gotta find our identity. I feel like we've put 4 different things on tape the past 4 weeks. And I think we just gotta really lean in and find our identity this week. I want our identity to be the K-State football way, and that's physical, fast, just playing with energy. And I feel like the past 4 weeks we haven't put that on tape. So I think it's a good week to do so.
How much of an emphasis was that playing with energy during practice?
Oh, it was big this past week. We did a lot of competition periods, and guys chirping at each other, just a lot of competition, a lot of energy. And I feel like that has been one big thing that we've been trying to harp on is, man, celebrate when things go good. I feel like especially this year, it hadn't been going well. So when things do happen good, like we got to celebrate those. We got to go get hype. I don't know.
Man, it was a fun practice last week. I'm really excited to see what this week holds. I know that we're going to keep up the energy and carry us through Saturday. So I'm excited. Man, it's everything from cheering on teammates to picking your brother up next to you if he misses a play, to just not focusing on yourself, but focusing on the team and not what I can do, but how as a group can I make the team around me better. So, yeah.
Are the Wildcats going to be for real in 2025? Or is this just one of those seasons that devolves into a nightmare of sorts? It's hard to explain Kansas State's troubles so far this year. They're uncharacteristic of a K-State team or a Chris Kleiman team. Coach Kleiman, as he said, hopes to have this thing turned around, hopes to make a statement in this game that will prove as a launching pad for the rest of the season. This game, before the season started, seemed like an easy home victory, and it now seems anything but that. It's going to be a significant challenge that Kansas State must meet, or I'm fearful that everything will come apart for the Cats the rest of the way. It has been a shocking start, but also it's been a start that we've seen across college football with other football programs that are used to winning. I guess it's Kansas State's turn right now, and it's difficult for the fans and coaches to see what's happening. But the players, yeah, they're struggling with it, but they have the most control of any of us. And the first thing they need to control is their energy level. They have to want to play. They have to want to defeat the opposition, have to win the line of scrimmage and make plays. A little more enthusiasm would go a long ways. And that brings me to my one thing to watch in this contest, and it starts before the game even starts. How does this team come onto the field? Because I've noticed starting late last season, they just kind of jog onto the field like they're not inspired at all to play football. I know running onto the field doesn't mean a darn thing in the big terms of X's and O's, but when your team has been as lackadaisical as Kansas State has been, that makes a statement right away. Show some enthusiasm coming out of that locker room. Show some fire, hunger, and grit. And maybe that will convert over to the actual game. Don't know. We're all searching for answers, and that's where mine starts. We appreciate you watching this edition of the K-State Pregame Show, sponsored by Coldest.com and WoodenCork.com. And we will have a postgame show hosted by Brian Hanley and Cole Carmody about 15-20 minutes after the conclusion of Saturday's game. 11 a.m., FS1, Bill Snyder Family Stadium. It's the Cats and Knights in a Big 12 game. Can K-State correct its issues? Can UCF continue its early season roll? We're going to find out, and I will hopefully see you at the Bill.
Thank you for watching the K-State Pregame Show. Make sure you're subscribing to this YouTube channel, and please share your thoughts in the comments. Also, please support our sponsors, Coldest.com and WoodenCork.com, and remember the code LifeOfFits for your discount. This has been a Go Power Cat and Spirit Street production.